Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is a companion video. What are companion videos? Well, I'm awfully glad that you asked. See, every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday, we take the second half of the show, take your comments and questions. However, we normally don't have enough time to get through all the questions that get sent in. But if you sent in those questions and tip to the channel to support us, I want to make sure you don't have to wait too long to get those questions answered. So we gather them up and we address them here on companion videos. And it's good to have you guys here. It is right now Tuesday night, which means tonight at midnight my time, because I live in the LA area. Tonight at midnight my time is Hawkeye episode 4. Now, I wasn't a big fan of Hawkeye's episodes 1 or 2, but episode 3 kind of turned things around for me, and I was really trying to get into it, and it actually made me look forward to that. So tomorrow, just to let you guys know, tomorrow around, I think, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we will be doing our Hawkeye post-game open spoiler discussion. So if you watch Hawkeye between now and 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, that's 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow, make sure you come and join us for that post-game open spoiler discussion. We'll talk all about tonight's episode of Hawkeye episode 4. But that's not what we're here for right now. Right now, we're here to get caught up on your questions. So let's start doing that right now. And we're going to start getting caught up here with Kenny D, who writes, "Hey, John. Been a fan since AMC. Thank you so much for that, Kenny. Listening to your show keeps me away from my sports gambling addiction. LOL. Dexter New Blood is halfway through now. Have you been watching it? What are your non-spoiler thoughts so far and Bring on the Filthy? Nope, haven't started watching it yet. I'm excited to watch it, but I just haven't had a chance to watch it. You know what happened? I don't have Showtime because I believe it's on Showtime, right? I don't have Showtime. So what happened was Showtime and Budweiser sent me this big pack with all these Dexter goodies in it and a whole bunch of really cool things, including like a 1-year free subscription to Showtime, but we just haven't gotten around to activating it yet. So Ann and I are both excited to watch Dexter. I'm going to get that code loaded in and I will binge to get caught up on that very, very soon. Very, very soon. All right. Thanks for the question, man. All right. Next up, we've got Kendall Barker, who writes, "Hey, John, Kimberly, and Ray." And obviously, Kimberly and Ray aren't here right now. "I have a mild suspicion Feige dropping this news adds that we may get some form of Kingpin debut before the end of Hawkeye Season 1. Instead of killing his dad, he kills his brother in this universe by hiring the swordsman." I mean, who knows, whatever. But for those of you who don't know what Kendall's talking about, so in Hawkeye, there's the uncle. Well, Kevin Feige recently made a comment, I think we just talked about it yesterday on the John Campea Show, that Charlie Cox, if they ever have Daredevil in their MCU, then Charlie Cox will be the person to play Daredevil. So obviously a lot of people think, well, then obviously he's already going to be in the MCU, because why would you cast a role if you didn't even know if the role is going to be there yet? But if he's going to be there, that increases the suspicion that the uncle in Hawkeye, which maybe we find out tonight, maybe not, but they are more than halfway through the show now, once tonight's episode starts, that the uncle is going to be Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin. Whether that is or not, we will find out. Okay, let's see. Next up, we've got Mike Thompson, who writes, "I think the folks at Sony are just doing damage control. I find it very hard to believe that Amy, producer of every Spider-Man movie in history, Pascal, wouldn't know what she's talking about concerning Spidey's cinematic future. She isn't dumb by any means." All right, well, I mean, here's the thing. This is what Mike's talking about. So the other day, Amy Pascal made comment. Now, Amy Pascal, who's a great film executive, great film producer, but she also says some pretty weird things when she's doing interviews and has years of a track record of that. But she said the other day that, that they're not done making movies with the MCU, that they're already planning to do one more, like another one in the MCU with Tom Holland after this one. And then they're going to do a trilogy of movies and all this kind of stuff. Then Sony came out and said, they told the Hollywood Reporter, no, there are no plans right now. And I was told by somebody at Sony who may or may not be in the know, granted, somebody who may or not be in the know at all, just said, I don't know what Amy's talking about. So there's this. So here's the thing, Mike, you're saying, well, she's a producer. She's not dumb. Well, no, she's not dumb. She's clearly brilliant. She is brilliant, but she did something dumb either dumb number one, she said things that aren't actually happening, or dumb number two, she was saying things without checking with the actual studio in charge to see if there are things she could say yet. Either way, she did something dumb. Like either item A, she did dumb, or item B, she did dumb. Because if she was savvy at doing interviews, she would know, hey, don't say anything that's not a sure thing. And B, don't say anything that I haven't cross-checked with the studio in charge if it's okay to talk about or reveal or not. So she either did A, dumb, or B, dumb. You got to pick your poison on that one. But again, I don't mean that to trash on Amy Pascal. She's a very, very brilliant filmmaker, brilliant film executive and producer. It's just that she does say some crazy things sometimes. All right, next up. Suthius writes, I'm torn, all right? I like Charlie Cox as Daredevil. I enjoy his show. Is it cool that he's coming over to the MCU as the same Daredevil or MCU's new version? Sure. But I always hope to see new, fresh faces portraying titled characters. Same mindset goes for Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin. Yeah, look, and normally I completely agree that if this is a new version of the character, which it seems like that's what it'll be, like if it is Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin and if it is Charlie Cox as Daredevil, apparently they're not going to be the same Daredevil and the same Kingpin that were in the Netflix series. It's a new iteration. Normally, if you're doing something like that, I believe the better move is to recast. I mean, look what happened with Ghost Rider. Like Ghost Rider 2, Spirit of Vengeance was completely designed as a reboot for Ghost Rider. That's a totally different. Ghostbusters is a totally different movie. Anyway, Ghost Rider 2, Spirit of Vengeance was completely designed to be a reboot. And then they found out they could get Nicolas Cage back. And then they sort of called it what did they call it? A requel. A requel is what they call it. It's a reboot sequel. And you know, that movie didn't work out terribly well and whatever, but I normally think that's the case. But in this circumstance, with people, so many people adoringly loving Charlie Cox's portrayal as Matt Murdock and adoringly loving Vincent D'Onofrio's role as Kingpin, that dude is born to play Kingpin. I could see an exception being made. And the fact that their Daredevil show ended too soon. Like it was killed after 3 seasons. So I can sort of see it here. So I completely understand where you're coming from and I empathize with where you're coming from. But I think this might be a circumstance that I would maybe be okay with it. I will know. All right. Thanks for writing that in, Suthius. Juliana Hernandez writes, hey, John, I recently watched Encanto, and being Colombian, I felt really proud and appreciative of the movie. I had a great time watching the movie, but I'm pretty biased. I wanted to know your thoughts on the film. I incredibly enjoyed it, Juliana. You know, Ann and I was a little bit late to it. Ann and I just went to go watch it last week, but I very much enjoyed it. The music wasn't as good as in some other Disney or Pixar or some other Disney films per se, but it was still very enjoyable. The songs were really good. Not as catchy as some other stuff, but the lyrics and the meaning of the songs all went with the movie perfectly. We Don't Talk About Bruno is probably the best song in the entire thing. I enjoyed it a great deal. I thought it was charming and sweet. And yeah, I enjoyed it very, very much. I'm glad you did too, Juliana. All right, next up. Orlando Orrego writes, there is videos of people fighting in Mexico. I heard about this, of people fighting in Mexico for Spider-Man tickets. It's getting serious, LOL. Yeah, I heard about that, and I'm not surprised. Look, people are stupid. People are stupid. I mean, we've all seen videos. I mean, it's not as bad anymore because now most people do their Black Friday shopping online. But still, we've all seen videos of like Black Friday and people bull rushing into stores and literally getting into fights over a doll on a shelf and stuff like that. People are, it's like, okay, look, I get it. Your kid wanted that doll, but you are literally getting into a fight with another human being, trying to hurt and injure that other human being over a fucking doll. There will be other screenings of Spider-Man No Way Home, but you know, we are people, and as people, we can do some pretty stupid things sometimes. All right. Orlando also writes, since you say that anything is on the table, I want Topher's Venom versus Tom Venom, LOL. Listen, and I mean it. I think anything's on the table. I think that is one of the smaller possibilities. I said on the show today, on the John Campea Show earlier today, I don't think you're going to see Sony wanting to revisit the Topher Grace Venom any more than they want to revisit Paul Giamatti's Rhino. Like, those are just two things that really soured the audience, and I don't think they're going to want to go back there and, you know, revisit that. Unlike Molina's Doc Ock, people loved. Willem Dafoe's Goblin, people loved. You know, people may not have loved Jamie Foxx's Electro, but people love Jamie Foxx. And taking another swing at that could be pretty cool. But nobody liked Topher's Venom, and nobody liked Paul Giamatti's. And Paul Giamatti's great, and Topher Grace is great. But nobody liked that iteration of Venom or that iteration of Rhino. So I don't think they're going to go that way. But who knows? It is on the table, so we'll have to wait and see. All right. Mr. Burns writes, 1 of 2. Hey, John and crew. I was wondering, I just recently watched that villains panel that was held at the Brazilian Comic-Con there that was highlighting Willem Dafoe, Jamie Foxx, and Alfred Molina in that panel. And I was wondering, has anybody heard whether Thomas Hayden Church or Rhys Ifans will be in it? Will be in their title roles as Sandman and Lizard, because you hardly hear about them or nobody really mentions them. So what are your thoughts? Do you think they will be in the movie, or will their role or with their role, or will they be CGI? And what are your thoughts? Yeah, you know, we were mentioning that on the show either today or yesterday too, that it's kind of interesting that while we see Lizard and we see Sandman, we have not seen or heard anything from Thomas Hayden Church or Rhys Ifans in their respective roles. And that kind of brought up a couple possibilities. Number one, do we only see Sandman in his Sandman form? And do we only see Lizard in his Lizard form? That makes sense. Or could it be like a Hulk in the Infinity War trailer situation in the Battle of Wakanda, where Hulk's not in that at all, and maybe Sandman and Lizard aren't actually in the movie at all? Now, I don't know what the likelihood of that is, but yeah, I am very curious to see if these guys are actually in the movie or not, because I like both of them very much. All right, next up, we've got Johnny $sign writes, 1 of 2. As Oscar viewership declines each year, why do streamers like Netflix spend exorbitant amounts of money on films in the name of an Oscar, Irishman, Mank, etc.? Prestige movies attract prestige artists, but these movies aren't making streamers much money. I got news for you. No movie is making streamers much money. Just so you know. 2 of 2. And it's quality, not it's quantity, not quality, that motivates streamers. That's true. Why would they be willing to sacrifice millions to prove themselves as equals to the big studios? Ego? I can't see any economic justification. Thanks, guys. I appreciate the insight. All right. So there is a couple things. First of all, the Oscars are as important as ever. Now, obviously, last year's Oscar viewership, they should never have had an Oscars last year. I argued for like 6 months leading up to the Oscars last year that there should not have been an Oscar ceremony last year. I thought it was completely tone deaf for them to do it. But whatever, if they did. Listen, the fact of the matter is that with very few exceptions, the Oscar broadcast every year is the #1 live broadcast of the year other than the Super Bowl. You know, so I laugh at sometimes at people who think they know something when they're like, oh, nobody watches the Oscars anymore. You do realize that like only the Super Bowl attracts more viewers than the Oscar does pretty much year in, year out, at any rate. The other thing you got to remember too is this, that regardless of what roles people have, these guys are still in the film business. And yeah, you want to be acknowledged by your peers. You know, I hear some people who think they sound smart by going, oh, you know, awards don't mean anything. That's usually people who aren't in a position to get them. But, you know, when you're a filmmaker, whether as a producer, an executive, a director, a writer, whatever, like you spend your career, Erin Cummings was on as an actress, and she was talking like every time you start a new project, you already start fantasizing your acceptance speech at the Emmys or at the Oscars, right? So there's definitely a thing there that these guys want to win those Oscars. Absolutely. But there's tons of studies you can go and read that when a movie wins Oscars, there actually is a direct financial windfall attached to that. Now, how does that apply to streamers though? See, that's interesting because streamers really don't make any money off their movies per se. A company like Netflix's strategy is this, because 95% of Netflix's movies that go out on their service are complete utter dog shit. Like they're usually just terrible. And what they do is they invest in a small number of films every year that they actually think could be good. whether that's something like an Irishman or Tick, Tick, Boom is really good, by the way. To create an impression with the audience and with the market that, hey, we make these great movies. We make movies that win Oscars. You really should be a subscriber to Netflix, right? They create that impression that we are as valid a movie-making studio as any of those big guys. You should definitely be a subscriber of Netflix. We're the ones who made the, Academy Award-winning Roma. We're that everybody loves, but I'm one of the only guys that didn't really like Roma all that much. Anyway, then we're the ones who made the Academy Award film Roma. We're the ones who made the Academy Award nominated film The Irishman. We're the one who made the Academy Award at minimum nominated film Tick, Tick, Boom. Like, they create just enough of those to create the aura and appearance that, hey, they're a serious place to come and watch content. And nothing does that better than being able to hold up a shiny Oscar. You're right. And it's all about marketing. For a streamer, it's all about marketing. And that is the key. That is the absolute key for those guys. All right. Thanks for writing that in, man. All right. Next up, Royce Freeman writes, if an actor changes their name and or the pronouns they identify as, should studios be made to go back to films with that actor, actress and change their credit if they request it? I guess the real question here, Royce, is who the fuck cares? Who cares? Why is this an issue? It doesn't affect me or you or anybody else on the planet. It doesn't matter. I don't know. I don't care. Listen, anybody has the right to be known by any name, any pronoun, or identify in any way they want to identify. And if you have a problem, and I'm not saying you do, Royce, I'm just saying to general people, if you have a problem with that, that's you. That's a you problem, right? Like whether you call me John or whether you call me Giovanni or whether you call me Stacy, I mean, whatever. If you have a problem with that, that's on you. That's not anybody else's problem. As far as here's what I think personally. If somebody changes their name or their use of their pronouns or whatever, or how they identify, should a studio go back and change older content that performer was in to reflect their new identification? I would say no, unless, like in the situation you're pointing out, the individual in question requests it. If the individual in question comes to you and specifically requests it, and it's not a terribly, complicated procedure to make that change, yeah, then go ahead and do it. If they don't specifically request it, do it or don't do it. I don't think it really matters. It doesn't really matter. Again, it has absolutely zero impact on me as an individual. It has absolutely zero impact on anybody else as individuals. So if they want to, yeah, go ahead. Now, if it's going to cost them $1 million, well, then no. Then no, I wouldn't. Say, look, at that time in history, that was how you're titled at that time in history is what you were named as. That's what you were going by as that time. That is historical fact. And we would change it if it was easy for us or inexpensive for us to do it. But you're asking us, I'm creating a hypothetical situation here, by the way. Like, let's say for argument's sake, it was $1 million. I don't know. Maybe it's $5 million. Maybe it's $10. I don't know. I'm just making up a fake hypothetical situation. Okay. But they were like, it's going to cost us like $1 million to go in and change these sorts of things. And it'll force, because if we make a change, we have to change the rights issues and blah, blah. Look, no, we're not going to change it. But if in a lot of cases, like streaming movies or whatever, all it's a matter of is going into a text editor and changing a name and a credit, re-rendering out the movie and re-uploading it, maybe $1,000 worth of labor for get somebody to do that, then just go ahead and do it. Other than that, the bottom line is I don't give a shit. Like, I don't really care. I don't care at all. All right. Next up, Stony Baloney writes, If not too late, you should make some of the Adopt a Family gift cards, AMC gift cards, or even a year of A-List. A good way to get kids out of the house on weekends, school breaks, and likely an expense they avoid. In fact, they can go to Spider-Man, Love and Film. I know I don't like that idea. And here's why I don't like that idea. I much prefer giving something that has flexibility. You know, I much prefer giving gifts to things like when we do Adopt a Family, like we can give some specific things that they tell us they need. You know, like a family needs new cookware. They have one pot and, you know, a rusted pan that, okay, yeah, so they tell us a specific need, then we get them specific things. But when it comes to giving them things like gift cards, I'd rather it be something that allows them the flexibility to get what they need. You know what I mean? So, you know, one of the things that we're giving the Adopt a Family is Amazon gift cards. So if there's specific items and things they realize they need later, they can use those gift cards on Amazon, just order whatever it is they need. Another thing we're giving them is just a prepaid Visa debit card so that if there's anything else they need that's like not on Amazon, maybe they need to pay some bills with it, or maybe then they can do that. I don't want to make something like that specific. It's like, yay, we've got $200 in a Nike gift card for a Nike store. But what we really need right now is a new blanket for a new comforter for our kid's bed because it's getting cold. You know what I mean? I just don't want that type of situation. So I appreciate you coming up with ideas, Stony Baloney. I like that a lot, but that's why I don't like to give gift cards or things like that in our Adopt a Family years that are specific, because I don't know what that family's needs are. I'd rather give them something that gives them the flexibility to meet their own needs. That's just my take on that, why we don't do that. But I love that you're thinking creatively, man. Thanks for the suggestion. Right. James O'Rourke writes, 1 and 2. This Christmas will mark 1 year since the passing of my uncle. I'm sorry to hear that, man. Though not to the extent of Spider-Man's, he was one of the few good father figures in my life. I have been rewatching all of the live-action Spider-Man movies for preparation for No Way Home, and it's been emotionally jarring. You guys have been a great anchor in life as late. Thank you, and stay filthy, my friends. All right, thanks a lot for sending that, James. And you know what? It's funny because just on the show, I might have been the other day, we were talking about how the beauty of the art of the movies, they're fun and they're exciting and all that. And yeah, that's great. But there's a much deeper part of it too, when we see our lives reflected in the movies that we watch, right? I was talking the other day about how, you know, I think the last movie my wife Ann and I went to go see in a theater before the pandemic shut everything down was the animated film Onward, with Tom Holland and Chris Pratt doing the voices, because the main gist of that thing was these two brothers going on a quest to try to bring their father, who had died many years earlier, back for one day, to just be able to have one day with their dad. And it came just not terribly long after my wife had lost her father, my father-in-law. And it was very emotional and touching. And yeah, so when you're watching movies like Spider-Man about a guy who's like, the most pivotal transitional thing for him was the loss of his uncle, and you yourself had lost an uncle, it can really touch us in a very special way. And I'm glad you shared that experience with us, man. Thanks for sharing that, dude. All right, next up. Colin D writes, I fear that Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is going to have the Lego Movie, the second part, effect, having an amazingly charming and rewatchable animated first one, then have a meh second one that's just more of the same, praying for greatness. Well, here's the thing though, Colin, based on what? I mean, look, first of all, it should be said, many sequels in Hollywood history are bad. Many sequels are bad, right? Some are great, but many of them turn out to be bad, disappointing, because it's difficult to catch lightning in a bottle twice. You know, when a movie like The Godfather follows up with The Godfather Part 2, that's rare. When a movie like Star Wars can follow up with The Empire Strikes Back, that's rare. More often than not, it turns out like the sequel to The Hangover. Or it turns out like the sequel to Analyze This. Or it turns out like the sequel to the Lego Movie. But right now, I don't see any reason to be particularly to be particularly fearful of that. I mean, look, they did a great job with it. They have and by the way, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse has a lot more to draw on as far as storytelling. Lego is plastic building blocks. What do you do? So I don't know. I mean, it could go bad. Absolutely. Many sequels do, but I don't think there's any reason to worry right now, Colin, but we'll find out. All right. Next up, Winter Naomi Vera writes, Deadline has reported that Patty Jenkins is stepping down as Cleopatra director to produce the film so she can focus on Wonder Woman 3 and Rogue Squadron. Delayed, not canceled. The X-Wing pilots could still fly with Patty. Yeah, we talked about that on the show today, Winter, and I was very happy to hear that because when they announced that Patty Jenkins, the production scheduling and the production start time of Rogue Squadron had been pulled off the production schedule, and then we found out the real reason why was because of creative differences. Even though they never said the movie was canceled, I kind of thought it would be. Like, I kind of believed, if you guys watched that episode, I think I said, like, I don't think this movie's ever going to happen at this point. So I was personally very happy to hear that she was stepping down as the director for Cleopatra and was going to focus her attention on Wonder Woman 3 and the Star Wars movie Rogue Squadron. Rogue Squadron clearly being the one I'm most interested in, but I also love the first Wonder Woman movie, not so much the second one, but I loved her first Wonder Woman movie, so I'm really interested in seeing her third, so I think it was the right choice. I'm looking forward to it. All right, next up, we got Gage, who writes, Hey, John, let me try this. Hey, John, do we think Wanda will show up in Spider-Man? No. I think she may be the reason Strange is acting weird. Okay, first of all, Gage, here's the thing. Strange is not acting weird. I do not understand why so many of my fellow film-loving brothers and sisters out there are insisting that Doctor Strange is acting weird. He is not acting weird at all. He is acting in these trailers exactly like he acts in the other movies. Exactly like he acts in the other movies. There's nothing in any of the trailers where Doctor Strange is acting inconsistently with the Doctor Strange we've seen in the movies so far. Like, so for me, yes. So no, I thought before, like jump back 4 or 5, 6, 7 months ago, I thought maybe there was a good chance we might see Wanda pop up. I don't think we will. Maybe in a post-credit scene or something, but I don't think we're going to see Wanda Maximoff as a part of the story, but you never know. We'll find out next week, my friend. All right. Next up, Wyatt Bender writes, Hey, John, I got my ticket for No Way Home on December 19th. Nice. I believe we will see Toby and Andrew in the film. I think everybody believes that. But question, since we'll see Sandman again, how will Toby tell the others that Sandman is the man who killed his Uncle Ben? That'll be hard for them to stomach. I don't even think that's going to come up in the movie. I really don't. Like, you can have a lot of characters, but there's only so much room for the number of storylines you can have. You can have tons of characters, but you can only have so many storylines. And that's why, like, I've been reading a bunch of theories from fans that, like, introduce entire full storylines. Like, I think this is going to happen, but it requires involving an entire full storyline in the movie, and there's just not room for it. So, quite frankly, I don't think any of that stuff is going to come up. I think you'll hear each Spider-Man reference what this bad guy can do and stuff like that, but I don't know they're going to get into kind of a subplot like that, like now wrestling and dealing with this guy who is Sandman. Yeah, I don't think they're going to go there. They might, but I think that's just introducing too many side plots and other storylines that I just don't know that there's room in this movie for. But you never know, Wyatt. You may be on the money on that. Let's find out. All right, next up, we have Overwatch, who writes, Hey, John, I wouldn't be surprised to see Charlie Cox at the last episode end credits of Hawkeye. My favorite villain was David Tennant playing Purple Man. A lot of people I didn't like Jessica Jones, but he was a great villain. Hope he joins the MCU more so than Fisk. His acting was fantastic. I mean, I liked him, but listen, I gotta go. I gotta tell you, Overwatch, I gotta go with Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin. I honestly rank him up there in terms of that dude was born to play this role, with Robert Downey Jr. playing Iron Man, Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool, Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine. I'm not saying he's as good as those, but I put it in the same category of, man, this dude was born to play that role. So I still got to lean towards Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin. But even though I didn't like Jessica Jones, I did like David Tennant in that. All right, next up. Overwatch also writes, hey, John, I love the Harry Potter movies, but Ginny Weasley and Luna Lovegood have significantly bigger roles in the books. I didn't read the books, so I don't care. It's a shame because they have very interesting contributions. They could retell the stories to a TV series as a lot was not told. I don't think anybody cares. I'll be honest with you. I don't think anybody cares. I certainly don't care. I consider myself a fan of the Harry Potter movies. I am not a Potterhead like my wife is, but I'm a fan of the Harry Potter movies. I really, and as a general movie-going guy who I think the majority of the people who have watched the Harry Potter movies probably haven't read the books, as popular as the books are. They're psychotically popular. But I only know a few people that have read the books, but I know a hell of a lot of people that have watched the movies. Look, Ginny Weasley and Luna Lovegood, they're very good little supporting characters. I don't care to see a show about them specifically. I'm just telling you my point of view. That's all. As somebody who hasn't read the books and never plan on reading the books, I really don't have a lot of interest in seeing a show about them. But that's just my take on it. But I'm glad you gave your thought on that, Overwatch. All right, next up. We got Drew Cardona, who writes, hey, John, been watching since the AMC days. Thank you so much for that, Drew. Long live Schnepp indeed. Prediction. What if Toby / Doc Ock / Holland team up against the villains in No Way Home and Garfield was being honest about not being in the film, but he shows up in a post-credit scene? Yeah, a lot of people have wondered, could you get away with that with the semantics of saying, well, I'm not in the film? Guess what? The post-credit scene is part of the film. The post-credit scene is a part of the film. Is the movie over until the post-credits are done? No. Well, then it's part of the film. Just like the end credits are part of the film. So that doesn't work. Look, I have thought for a long time. And by the way, 4 months ago, we all know Toby's in it. 4 months ago, that video footage of him on the green screen giving the dialogue came out. So everybody's known since then. But I thought for the longest time, even back when I wasn't sure if I thought, go back 8 months to a year ago when I wasn't sure, that I didn't really think Toby and Andrew would be in it. I still thought at that time, if they're in it, then they're both in it. That's it. I've always thought that. Even when I didn't think they were going to be in the movie, I thought if one of them is in it, both of them will be in it. So yeah, I don't think we're going to see Toby in this without Andrew. I think it's Toby and Andrew in it. And again, maybe they won't be, but I still to this day think they're either both there or neither of them are there. So, but look, everybody knows they're both in it. So there's that. All right. Thanks for sending that in, Drew. Appreciate that, dude. Next up, where are we at here? Chris W. writes, we have all heard your position on Die Hard not being a Christmas movie. Absolutely. And I agree with you, but what is your position on Nightmare Before Christmas? Is that movie a Christmas movie or a Halloween movie or both? My coworkers say it's a Halloween. I say both. I'm with you on that, Chris. I don't think it's an important question. I really don't care. But if you're asking, I will say my position on Nightmare Before Christmas has always been it's both. It is both a Halloween movie and a Christmas movie. It relies heavily on Christmas. It's not like Die Hard that just happens to take place at Christmas time, but it could have happened in any other time of the year. This is specifically about Christmas and Halloween, right? So for me, it's both. That's just my take. We both could be wrong, Chris, but I am with you on this. All right, next up. Sam Fisher writes, where are we at? There we are. I saw you saw Encanto. Yes. What did you think? I really enjoyed it. I loved it. We don't talk about Bruno in my head since I saw it. The theme of insecurity and living up to family expectations really surprised me. I had 2 predictions that were either 100% wrong or 50% wrong. My first prediction was that Mirabelle's power was that she could actually communicate with the house and that she was the only one that could. That was 100% wrong. My other was that Mirabelle could become the new keeper of the magic after Abuela died. 50% wrong. Or was that 100% wrong? Again, I listen, I clearly, I cannot go into details here because there are people watching this who haven't seen Encanto yet and they have no idea what we're talking about. So I cannot go into details about why I still think you're wrong about that one. But I'll tell you what, Sam, without going into specifics, so I don't want to give any spoilers away. I had 2 or 3 predictions myself going into the movie, and they were all both or all 3 of them were completely wrong. The ones I had going into were completely wrong as well. So you and I are in the same boat with that one, Sam. All right, next up. HP Fan writes, "Hey, John and crew. So with Discovery buying Warner Brothers, what's the chance that they buy out the deal that doesn't let them make Harry Potter or Wizard World stories? I feel like Harry Potter is one of the biggest IPs they have that would bring massive numbers to HBO. Anything new Harry Potter would probably bring the subs they want. Is the new reunion testing the waters, seeing how much people still love this franchise before they make more films/series different than Fantastic Beasts? The universe has tons of big stories they can tell." All right, so let's start with a couple things here. You can't buy what is not for sale. All right, that's just something to understand. All through years, people say, why doesn't Sony buy this? And why doesn't Disney buy that? Because you can't buy what's not for sale. JK is not about to sell her all-controlling rights to the Harry Potter franchise. Nor should she, like at all, like ever. Because no matter how much money a studio offers her for it, she can make more by owning them long-term. She can make a hell of a lot more. Also, when you say that, like, it would bring in massive numbers, I don't know that that's true. I mean, they have continued on with the Harry Potter world with the Fantastic Beasts, and while they've done well, they haven't been, shaking the box office to its foundation. I happen to like the Fantastic Beasts movies. I'm quite looking forward to the next one. But, I mean, it's not like they've been absolute groundbreaking. I don't think there's a guarantee. And as far as, is this reunion testing? No, it's not. It's not. This reunion is not at all a testing water to see if the audience still. No, they know the audience still fondly remembers the Harry Potter franchise. Look, anymore, remember, Warner Brothers did the exact same thing with Friends, right? They just did the Friends reunion. And that was just to get a lot of attention to HBO. And they knew people would be interested. And it was a wonderful reunion special. I'm not even a huge Friends fan. I mean, I like Friends, but I wasn't even a huge Friends fan. But that reunion special was really well done. But it wasn't about testing the waters to see if they should make new Friends movies or new Friends TV shows, right? Same thing is here with this. Warner Brothers knows how popular the Harry Potter franchise is. They know how popular it is. The older films, at any rate. They know that it would not be as profitable today if you try to, because they're doing Fantastic Beasts and it's doing well, but again, they're not breaking box office records or anything. And again, Warner Brothers can't buy what's not for sale. JK is not giving those up, nor should she at all. Well, what if they offered her $12 billion? Well, then Warner Brothers would be fools to spend that much money because they're never going to recoup that. They're never going to recoup that. Like it would, that's the thing about these types of sales. I believe this is a situation where the amount of money Warner Brothers, whether they're owned by AT&T or owned by Discovery, would have to spend an amount of money to get them that makes it not worth it. That makes it not worth it. Everything's got a value limit. Even Marvel at this point has a value limit. I'll give you $2 trillion to buy Marvel. Great, but you're going to go bankrupt. You'll never make that money back. As popular as Marvel is, you will never make that money back. So you got to be careful about that, right? And I honestly think that I don't think JK is going to give away Harry Potter for anything less than a number that would be considered too expensive. So yeah, there's that. So it's great to say Warner Brothers should buy the Harry Potter rights. Well, that's great, but you can't buy what's not for sale. Anyway, that's just kind of my take on it. All right. Thanks for writing that in, Anonymous, or HP fan, I should say. All right. Next up, we got MD who writes, hey, John and team, if you haven't yet, you should watch last week's episode of The Graham Norton Show. I heard about this one. It had Henry Cavill, Tom Holland, Zendaya, and Gugu Mbatha-Raw from Loki as guests. Total geek fest. and a very funny anecdotes from all of them too. Yeah, I totally plan on watching that. I'm going to have to find it on YouTube because I don't know where you find the Graham Norton show. Graham Norton gets all the best guests. Like Fallon, Kimmel, whatever, they all get some pretty good guests. But like whenever Graham Norton has an episode, he's got like 4 of the biggest stars in the world all on at the same time, all the time. I don't know how that guy does it, but I do want to watch that one, MD. Thanks for bringing it up. All right. Korea Got Soul. I love that username, writes, "Hey, John. Hello, Kim, and good day to you, Ray." And obviously Kim and Ray aren't here right now. "Have you seen The Rescue? It's on Disney Plus. It is amazing. I also hear they're going to be making a movie called 13 Lives. It's about a soccer team of kids that get stuck in a cave in Thailand." Oh, they're not going to make it. That movie's made. At CinemaCon a couple of months ago, they actually showed us a big preview of it, and it looks really, really good. Now, to answer your question, no, I have not seen the documentary Rescue. I don't plan on watching it. I'm going to make the first thing I watch 13 Lives because the trailer looked great, and I am quite excited to see it when it does come out. Thanks for bringing that up, Korea. Next up, Chris writes, "Hey, John, love all you, Kim and Ray too. With news of Tom Holland's Fred Astaire biopic being made, I started thinking of some Hollywood celebs who I'd love to see a biopic on. And one iconic man came to mind, George Lucas. Where's his? Thoughts? Thanks." You know what, George Lucas, when you read about the life of George Lucas, the family he was born into, how he grew up, the car accident that he had that nearly ended his life, and then just bringing about how did Star Wars come about? Like, you've got an incredible biopic to make right there, let alone what happened, all the stuff that happened to him after Star Wars. You know, his divorce, his adopted children, all that there's a story to be made there about that life. I really think so. While he's alive, though, I don't think George Lucas would ever approve a biopic. While he's alive, I don't think he would ever approve that. But yeah, I suspect that, you know, whenever this earth is no longer graced with the presence of George Lucas anymore, I have a feeling at some point his family will probably approve the rights to tell his story. But I don't expect that to happen while he is thankfully still here among us. So at some point, I think it'll come. And I do think there's a really fascinating biopic to be made there. All right, next up, we've got anonymous viewer who writes in, "Regardless of if it's with Sony or Marvel, how soon after No Way Home do you think we'll hear that the next Spider-Man movie with Holland is in development? A couple of months? Probably. Look, the fact of the matter is this. The next movie's already in development. It's just that simple. I mean, they're not filming, but the next movie is already in development. I will tell you that right now. That outlines, drafts, pitches are all being written. Maybe even the screenplays themselves are already being written. It's already happening. Of that, I have zero doubt. Whether it's, you know, under Sony, whether it's under Marvel, that we'll all find out soon enough. But yeah, it's already being done. The question becomes, when do we find out about it? Probably shortly after the movie comes out. So I will say yes, within a couple of months. It could be even within a couple of days or a couple of weeks. But yeah, I'll go within a couple of months. All right, next up. Hunter Cozy writes, "Hey, John, I just want to check in on if you've heard the Spider-Man No Way Home leak soundtrack." Yes, irrelevant. Track 17 has Toby's theme and Andrew's theme on it. Sony has been copyright striking anyone who posts it. To me, that is Sony confirming Andrew and Toby. Well, you're absolutely wrong. You're absolutely wrong. They're copyright striking it because people are leaking music on YouTube. They always copyright strike that. That's one of the biggest things YouTubers get copyright strikes over is music. So you start leaking out music from a soundtrack, you're going to get copyright strike. That is not them confirming that Andrew and Toby are in it at all. That's getting copyright strike no matter what. But to me, I've had people writing and say, "John, how come you're not talking about the soundtrack on the John Campea?" Because it's not a story. Everybody on the planet has known for ages that Toby and Andrew are in this movie. They've all known for ages. Like, it was over a year ago that a bunch of outlets were reporting Andrew and Toby are in this movie. It was months ago that video footage of Andrew Garfield in the Spider-Man suit in front of the green screen doing dialogue and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's not a story. And so when people ask me, it's like, why aren't you, reporting on or talking about the Sony soundtrack? Because there's these tracks on it. It's like, that's like reporting a story today about something that seems to confirm that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is going to be Black Adam. We already know. We already know Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is Black Adam. So I don't care, right? But no, them getting copyright strikes has nothing to do with Toby or Andrew. That is just what happens when you post copywritten music on YouTube. That gets copyright strikes way more than video does. Like, music gets copyright strikes way more than video does on YouTube. So yeah, so there's that. But again, the story about this soundtrack to me is Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White in Batman versus Superman saying, "In other news, water, wet." It's a non-story. It's a non-story. To me, at any rate, Hunter. All right, next up. Dad Jokes writes, "Hey, John and crew, can I make a suggestion?" Absolutely. When you talk about how confident you are towards something, instead of saying how much you'd bet, can you say what odds you'd take? For example, 2-1, 10-1, 100-1. It paints a clear picture. No, it doesn't. I can tell you 100% sure that it doesn't paint a clear picture. All it does is makes it more ambiguous. First of all, you mentioned, 6-1 odds. Most people don't even know what that means. Like, most people don't even understand where that, a lot of people aren't sports bettors. But on top of that, it's the same reason why I don't give numerical scores when I review a movie anymore. Because to one person, like, I give a movie a 7 out of 10. To me, that means that is a solid movie. That's a really solid movie. Well done. 7 out of 10. It's only 3 points away from perfect. But in a world where everything has to be 10 out of 10 or 0 out of 10, you get a whole bunch of people that see me give a 7 out of 10 on a movie, and they're like, "Oh, well, Campea hated that movie. He only gave it a 7. Why did you hate that movie?" It's like, oh my God. And that's why I stopped giving numerical scores. And so if I was, we were talking about theories, and if I'm to talk about how confident I am, it is far more clear for me just to verbally say how confident I am than trying to give a number. "Oh, he only said 3-1. That means he doesn't love it at all." Whereas somebody else thinks 3-1, man, that means you're pretty confident in it, right? So what's the point in giving a number if two different people hearing me say that number interpret it totally differently, right? So I get where you're coming from, Dad Jokes. I totally do, because you're talking in languages I understand, like sports bet lines and all that kind of stuff. That's how I hear things. But the thing is, I can't do that because everybody then just debates what the number means. "How could you give that movie a 7 out of 10? That movie totally deserved a 7.5. You lose all credibility." It's like, oh God, whatever. So that's why I don't give numerical scores to just about anything, Dad Jokes. All right. But thank you for the suggestion. I appreciate it, dude. All right, next up. Lorenzo writes, "Hey, John, wild theory. What if Venom 3 is a Marvel production? This would go with the original contract for Tom Holland that we heard with that additional appearance, and those Tom Hardy comments about how Tom Holland are going to cross over." Yeah, but to me, that's not going to happen. I think right now Sony is ramping up what they're doing. They're ramping up their productions of the Sony Spider-Man universe. That's what they're doing. They're ramping up and doubling down on Venom and Morbius and Kraven the Hunter and others that they've already mentioned as well. So I don't think they're going to go that direction. I mean, what you're saying is sound. The logic you're using to build that is sound logic, but I just don't think that's the way it's going. But you never know, though. You never know. I'm not saying it's not possible. Of course it's possible. We live in a world where Jamie Foxx is coming back as Electro. Anything's possible, but it would seem to contradict and be counterproductive to everything Sony is trying to build. So I don't know. We'll see. All right. Thanks for that, Lorenzo. Next up, we've got Christopher Rosado, who writes, "Hey, John, I'm curious. With the press screenings of No Way Home being only 40 minutes, do you think Sony will take extra precaution with spoilers at the premiere? Like making everyone who goes sign an NDA saying they cannot talk spoilers or whatnot?" Okay, so they only showed 40 minutes to the journalists who are going to cover the press junket. This coming Monday, they are showing the full movie to critics. Now, I have said before, and I do believe, that if you go to one of these movies, these advanced screenings, and they ask you not to spoil it to the audience, I believe they should make you sign an NDA. They used to do that. Like, I remember when I first started covering movies, I remember going to like Rambo 4 and, you know, having to stop before going into the theater itself and grab a copy of a contract, sign my name on it and date it and give it back to them, sign an NDA. I think they should do that again. I really do. So anyway, that's because you get invited to these events. That is a privilege. You're not owed that. No one owes you an invitation to a screening or a premiere or anything like that. That is a privilege. And with that privilege comes some responsibilities. And that responsibility is, if we're going to show you this movie before anybody else, please don't tell everybody what happens in it. So yes, I believe they should sign an NDA. I don't know if they will, but I believe they should. But anyway, this Monday, they are going to be showing the movie to critics this coming Monday, and it's the whole movie. So we'll see how quickly, if anything, comes out of that. All right, next up, we got Chris Langston, who writes, "Hey, John and Co. Hello. Your show has got me through my first semester of college. Congratulations on getting through your first semester, dude. Huge thanks to you for all of that. However, I'd like your opinion. If Toby and Andrew are not in the film, and they are, do you think the Rotten Tomatoes score would tank? If so, how much? Thanks." No. First of all, critics don't care if Toby and Andrew are in the movie or not. Critics only care, is the movie good or not? And if the movie is good or not is not dependent on whether Toby and Andrew are in it. Toby and Andrew weren't in Far From Home, and that movie's really good. Toby and Andrew weren't in Homecoming, and that was really good. So how good this movie is not dependent on whether Toby and Andrew are in it. And so, no, the critic score won't change at all. If the movie's good, it'll get a high score. If it's bad, it'll get a low score. Just that simple. As far as the audience rating goes, I don't know. It depends on how stupid people are, or how many of the people seeing the movie are stupid. Because, you know, you got to be pretty stupid, I think. If you're going in there and thinking, I will not like this movie unless Toby and Andrew are there. I don't like it. Well, fuck off. Go and look. If this movie's good, appreciate it for what it is. Go in there and evaluate the movie on its own merits, not the movie you wanted them to make. And by the way, if they're in it and the movie's bad, call it like it is and say it's bad. Don't go, well, this is a piece of shit movie. Oh, Toby and Andrew here now. Now the movie's great. Yay. Like, we live in idiocracy. We live in idiocracy. Now, look, I'm expecting them to be in it. I am. But if they're not, okay, is the movie good? That should be the only thing. So the press number, the critic number will not change regardless of it with Toby and Andrew in there or not, because the critics don't care. They only care to see if the movie's good. That's it. The audience score, it will depend on how dumb people are. And again, if they're not in it and the movie is bad, then there's nothing wrong with saying this movie was bad and we didn't like it. So, but that's not what you're asking. You're asking just based on whether Toby and Andrew are in there. I don't know. I like to think it wouldn't affect it that much. I like to think we're not actually living in idiocracy right now, but maybe we are. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But, you know, let's just see if the movie's good or not first. Let's worry about that. Because if the movie's bad, then it's not going to matter whether they're in it or not. The question is, if it's good, will it matter if they're in it or not? And it shouldn't, but it might. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. All right. Next up, Selly D writes, "Hey, John, love the show. Thank you so much. My question is, do you think we could potentially see the return of Mindhunter Season 3, or is it completely out of the water at this stage? Thanks, and bring on the filthy." Dude, listen, I'll tell you what. I don't get too terribly upset when I find out a show gets canceled. Mindhunter was one I was really disappointed that got canceled. That's a really great show. It's deep, fantastic characters. I mean, I loved that show, and it totally should have gone on for at least another 2 seasons. And people were into it. I unfortunately, I don't know. I have no insider information on it, but as a fan on the outside, just kind of monitoring what's going on, it does seem like it's dead. It does seem like it's dead in the water. I hate that. I wish it would come back, and maybe it will. I don't know. But I'm just saying, from where I'm sitting right now, it appears that it's dead. And oh man, but I'll keep my fingers crossed with you, hoping that it'll come back at some point. All right. King Kong Megatron writes, "Hi from London, guys, and happy belated birthday, Kim." Of course, Kim's birthday was on Friday. I read an article on Deadline today stating that Patty Jenkins will produce, but not direct, Cleopatra, as she is going to focus on World War III, on Wonder Woman 3 and Rogue Squadron. I thought Rogue Squadron was off the table. Thoughts, and stay filthy. Yeah, no, I did too, King Kong. I did too. Like, look, they never said, when they pulled Rogue Squadron from the production schedule, they never said the movie was canceled. I believed it was done because, once I found out that, this wasn't scheduling conflicts, it was creative differences yet again between Kathleen Kennedy and one of the directors, in this case, Patty Jenkins, and I believed that the movie was done. I said, I don't believe this movie's going to happen. And by the way, it may not still happen. It's still possible this movie doesn't happen at all. But yeah, I was surprised to hear that she had left Cleopatra, and according to Deadline, is now going to be focusing on Wonder Woman 3 and Rogue Squadron. And I hope that's true. Because I have bought into that idea for that Rogue Squadron movie 100%. So I want to see it. I still have my doubts, but I'm hoping this is real. I hope it actually happens. Thanks for writing that in, King Kong. All right, next up. Michael Bradley writes, "Hello, John. Like you, I do not believe Miles will be in No Way Home. However, over under 20% that there is a Miles Morales Easter egg in No Way Home." Oh, I'll go better than that, Michael. I'll go 90%. Like some kind of little Easter egg or a little wink to a Miles Morales or something like that. Yeah, I'll go 100%. I do not believe we're going to have the character Miles Morales in this movie. I don't know that he's not going to be in it. I'm not saying definitively he's not. John Campea says Miles Morales will absolutely not be in the movie. No. I just don't believe he will be. But it's totally possible he could. But I am very confident, as much as a fan can be, very confident that there will be at least some kind of Easter egg, that if we look hard enough, at some point we'll see some kind of little Easter egg. I think that's very, very likely. At least that's just my opinion. Thanks for that, Michael. All right, next up. Call of Duty God writes, 1 of 2. "Hey, John. Enough of all this Spider-Man talk. LOL. Let's get down to business. I know there's a lot of football to be played, but if the Bucs and Patriots were to play in the Super Bowl, I think the 2 weeks before the game would break the internet. I don't know if the ratings would be the biggest because of Brady and Patriots hate, but I think it would be a great game. Usually the first week before the game is quiet, and second week it picks up. I think the hype would be insane those 2 weeks. Listen, I'll tell you what. I think the number 1 rated game of the year was when the Patriots played the Bucs. Tom Brady versus Bill Belichick. That was their number 1 rated game of the year on television. If those two meet in the Super Bowl, and it is not unrealistic to think that's a possibility now, Patriots have just ripped off 7 wins in a row. Brady just threw 4 more touchdowns the other day. That 43, Tom Brady at 43, is leading the league in touchdowns and yards. He's leading the league. He's thrown more touchdowns than any other quarterback in the league. And this season, he has thrown more touchdowns than any other quarterback in the league and for more yards than any other quarterback in the league. And this past week, he just threw 4 more touchdowns and like 330 more yards. It's crazy. But if they met in the Super Bowl, Patriots, Brady versus Belichick, in the Super Bowl, I honestly think you're looking at ratings records because, yeah, there's a lot of Patriots hate and Tom Brady doubters out there, but the drama of that's why that game was the number 1 highest rated game of the year. And that was just a regular season mean nothing game. And it came down to a last second field goal that missed. You have that as the Super Bowl, it's going to have a lot of haters crying in their pillow, but it'll also draw huge numbers. The drama of that, of Brady versus Belichick would be a wet dream for the NFL. That would be an absolute wet dream for the NFL for that to be the Super Bowl. I don't know that it's super likely, but it's not improbable that could be it. Not with like the Bucs right now at 9-3 and the Patriots having ripped off 7 wins in a row. It's looking like it could be possible. All right, next up. Matsif Jada writes, The joys of living in a small town in a small country with nationwide theater chain. Spidey tickets went on sale December 3rd, and the premiere is the 15th of December, so you're going to get to see it before we see it here. Got the best seat plus won free popcorn in a No Way Home game before Ghostbusters screening. Do you have those games? I'm sure there are probably some local theaters that have games like that or whatever, like, hey, win this or that. I don't believe they have like those games in AMC or Regal or things like that. They always do giveaways and things like that, but probably nothing as intimate and cozy as what you can have in a smaller country with a nationwide theater chain like that. That sounds pretty cool. So, hey, that is awesome. You're going to get to see it on the 15th. It's awesome. You got the free popcorn, and I'm really happy for you, dude. I hope you like the movie. All right, next up. Dante Moore writes, part 1 of 3. What's up, Mr. Campea and crew? Just wanted to write in to show my appreciation. Oh, thank you for that, Dante. Appreciate that, man. I am 24 years old, and you are the very first person I ever saw on YouTube, going all the way back to the AMC days. I myself am starting YouTube, and you have a lot to do with that. Oh, I'm very happy to hear that, dude. You have influenced my life more than you know, and I'm forever grateful for that. I'm currently in the United States Air Force. Thank you for your service, man. Stationed in Germany, and was worried I wouldn't be able to see Spider-Man No Way Home, but good news, I got my tickets for opening night, December 15th. That's awesome. Haven't been this excited for an MCU film since Endgame. I hope No Way Home doesn't disappoint. Question. To me, The Batman has the trailer of the year. What's yours? P.S. Keep up the great work. Keep being an influence, and Godspeed. Well, thank you so much for that, Dante. And again, thank you for your service. And man, as far as Spider-Man No Way Home goes, lucky you, you're in a country right now where you're going to get to have it earlier than we're going to get to see it here. So you are most probably going to see the movie before I do. There's something I could tell you guys, but I'm going to keep that to myself for now. And that is awesome. Super thrilled for you. Now, to your question. The Batman trailer is all kinds of awesome. Both of them. Particularly this last one that came out. That last one that came out with Penguin in the flipped over car and the flames behind Batman. I mean, Batman is the horror movie monster in this trailer. He's the nightmare. He's the things that guys like Penguin have nightmares about and wake up in the middle of the night in cold sweats. He's the Jason Voorhees of Gotham. And I love the way that trailer portrayed it. It was awesome. And it might be my most anticipated movie right now. The Batman, well, look what I'm wearing. The Batman may be my most anticipated movie right now. That said, dude, I cannot tell you how great. This last trailer of Matrix was very, very good. But the first trailer for The Matrix Resurrections, that first trailer, because you gotta remember, I have no excitement for this Matrix movie. I don't have a lot of hope for it. I really don't. And then that trailer came out. They showed it to us at CinemaCon. And it blew my mind. Like, this is a movie I'm not even excited about. And I was just like, that was an amazing trailer. The one with the song, one pill makes you larger, one pill makes you small. You know, that trailer is psychotically good. It's artistic, the way they mix and match the music with the visuals and the narrative of what's going on. It is a delight to watch. That is a trailer that is a delight to watch. So it would have to be up there too. So I'm not quite sure, but those are two fantastic trailers, man. All right. Thank you again for your service, and I hope you really enjoy Spider-Man No Way Home, man. All right. Next up, Nancy writes, hey, John and crew. So I was wondering what the chances are that Nightmare on Elm Street gets a reboot similar to Halloween, where the first film is canon, but the rest aren't, and maybe find someone to pass the torch off as Freddy. Robert Englund said he would return for one more movie since he can't be Freddy anymore, and it's hard on him. Another Wes Craven property is getting love with Scream. I'm hoping with Robert being in Stranger Things 4 and Scream doing well, we see Nightmare return. I honestly don't think so. I don't think, because remember, it wasn't that long ago that they tried rebooting Nightmare on Elm Street, right? They tried doing a reboot of it, and it did not do well. Actually, let me look up here. Give me a second to look this up. Yeah, I mean, it didn't do terrible at the box office. The one with Jackie Earle Haley in 2010. It didn't do terrible at the box office. It made 115 million, which isn't great, but it was made for only like a $32 million budget, something like that. So that's not bad. That's not bad, but it wasn't received very well. And I just don't know that there was a hunger for it. Also, the idea of revisiting that sort of a thing, it seems better when it's not tapped into supernaturalism. Although, especially with the latest Halloween movie, that's kind of where they go with it. But at any rate, you know what? I gotta say, I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. Now, if it did happen, and I'm just saying I don't think it'll happen, but if it did happen, I would definitely be curious. Like, I kind of like this idea of doing another film in a series many, many years later and kind of ignoring a bunch of the bad ones that came earlier. Like the whole idea of the Halloween movie, just ignoring all the sequels and just going back to the original Halloween, that this latest one that came out, I think it was 2018 was when the last one came out, was a direct sequel to the first one. I like that. I think that gives you some flexibility. I don't know if I see them doing that with Nightmare on Elm Street, but you never know. We'll keep our eyes open for it, Nancy. All right, thanks for sharing your thoughts on that. All right, next up. Rated Row writes, "Hey, John. Oh my God, did you get a chance to see the villains panel with Jamie Foxx, Willem Dafoe, and Alfred Molina? Yes, finally. Their joke about Sony Marvel picking up their options 20 years later is priceless. Forgot about the Spider-Man. Look at the talent with these three actors." And again, you're talking about guys like Alfred Molina. You're talking about Willem Dafoe. You're talking about you got Academy Awards up there with Jamie Foxx. I mean, it's pretty impressive, right? So I think it was great, and I am very, very excited for this movie, man. Very excited for this movie, and the villains returning is definitely one of the big reasons why. All right, Nancy writes, "If they did reboot Nightmare this is going back to the Nightmare on Elm Street stuff. If they did reboot Nightmare / continue, I really think they should not do what they did in the other remake. They took all the fun out of the Nightmare franchise, keep the colors of the original, make it fun and scary like the original Nightmare." Yeah, remember they did that in 2010 because that's what they believed in. They're not wrong that at the time, a darker, edgier take on it is what the audience was basically looking for. Like, you just don't want to try to redo the original because that was a different era. And if you're going to do another one, kind of bring something new to the table. So I get it. I get why they did that. If they were to do that though today, well, they tried that thing in 2010 and it didn't quite work. So I'd be with you. If they did do another one, try to get back to those elements that were there in the original Nightmare, right? Get back to a little bit of the goofiness, get back to a little bit of the fun. And as freaky, as scary as it was, particularly at the time, but get back to a little bit to that and see if maybe, again, I don't think they're going to do it, but if they do, I'm with you on that, Nancy. I think that's the direction they should go if they ever did decide to do that. All right. Next up, we've got Tevin C. who writes, "In an interview with Phase Zero, Zendaya, John, and Tom were asked if they would ever do a Spider-Verse movie. They looked at each other and started laughing and wouldn't tell why. Tom followed with, 'When you see this film, you'll understand why. It was in development for so long. I believe Kim was right. At some point, Tom may go animated for a brief moment and cross paths with Miles. Not like Roger Rabbit. He may be animated as well. I know it's a reach, but what are your thoughts?' Well, I think when they're asked along the lines of like when they get asked about doing Spider-Verse, I think they probably interpreted that as like multiverse stuff, like what we're going to get in this movie, and saying this has been in development for so long. That being said, I don't think it's the most impossible thing that we could see Tom Holland's Peter Parker in animated form. As a matter of fact, Disney Plus just announced recently that they are doing a young Peter Parker in high school animated show, a prequel show. And that's going to be in animated form. Could that Peter come across an animated Miles Morales? Absolutely. What I don't think is going to happen, the only thing I'm saying I do not believe at all is going to happen, is that we will get the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse animated Miles Morales pop up in this Spider-Man movie like Roger Rabbit. There will be an animated character in a live action environment. I don't think that's going to happen. In a different project, having an animated Peter Parker meet an animated Miles Morales, yeah, you could do that. especially with them announcing that animated Peter Parker show. I mean, that's a possibility at some point, totally. But I don't think we're going to see that happen in Spider-Man No Way Home. But everything's on the table, so you never know. Maybe. All right. Next up, we've got Tony Rodriguez. And Tony Rodriguez writes, I've been thinking, we are so focused on Andrew Garfield saying he's not in the movie. Well, just maybe he's not lying. Toby isn't all over the media denying. Yeah, but there's a reason for that. We'll talk about that in a second. You will say it's not, but I think the third Spidey is Miles. Jamie Foxx's pick that started all this wasn't specific. Yeah, no, it's not. I don't believe it's Miles Morales at all. And listen, the reason why Andrew Garfield has been denying it all along and Tobey Maguire hasn't is this. Tobey Maguire has had nothing to promote. Andrew Garfield has been, on the road talking about and promoting and all this kind of stuff for Tick, Tick, Boom for a while. And so he's doing the interview circuits. And every time he gets interviewed, everybody's asking him about Spider-Man No Way Home. Are you in Spider-Man again? Are you Spider-Man again? Are you Spider-Man again? See, Tobey Maguire hasn't had anything to promote. Tobey Maguire hasn't had any reason to be out in front of interviewers and being interviewed on talk shows and television and online and stuff like that. Andrew Garfield has. So the reason you see all these Andrew Garfield ones and none of Tobey Maguire is because Tobey Maguire doesn't have to be out there doing this stuff. Andrew Garfield has for Tick, Tick, Boom. So that's why. So yeah, no, I do not believe at all it's going to be Miles Morales. But I'm not saying it's impossible. Everything is on the table. And when I say everything, hell, even though I think it's unlikely, even Topher Grace's Venom is on the table. Again, highly unlikely it's going to be there. But I really think even less likely than Topher Grace's Venom. I think it's even less likely that Miles Morales is there. But you never know. I ain't saying it's impossible. Let's be clear about that. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I would be very, very surprised if he was. All right. Last question of the day, guys, comes to us from Star, who writes, Hey, John and crew. What do you think about The Lost Boys getting a remake? Personally, I'm excited with the new cast. As a lover of the original film, I want it let me try this again. As a lover of the original film, I want it so we could get the sequels Joel Schumacher wanted to make, like Lost Girls. Oh, yeah, no. If this remake is a success, they're not going to go back and do sequels to the original. Look, the original Lost Boys with Kiefer Sutherland and I think it was Jason Patric, if I'm not mistaken, the two Coreys, that is maybe my all-time favorite vampire movie. Yeah, I'll go there. I'll say I think the original Lost Boys is my all-time favorite vampire movie. I really love that movie a lot. And I'm all for them doing a remake. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the kid, the son in Quiet Place is going to be in it. And the dude who's one of the kids from the It gang, I think they're going to be in it as well. They're probably taking over the two Corey roles. Then who's going to be the main people? I don't know. Like the Jason Patric and the Kiefer Sutherland roles. Was that Jason Patric? Maybe it wasn't Jason Patric, but I'll just say Jason Patric for now. And the Kiefer Sutherland roles. Don't know that yet, but I'm all for it. I think that is a story that can be retold in a modern context. And I think it could be a lot of fun. But John, if you like the original, why do you want them to do a remake? Because making a remake, there's no downside to it. If it's good, great. We have another great movie to enjoy. If it's bad, oh well, I still have the original. There is literally no drawback to doing a remake. And I think this is one that could be done really well. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. All right, guys, listen. There are still more questions to come here from Hom Tolland, Spidey Fangirl, Anonymous, and others. Do not worry. We will pick up right where we left off. So Hom Tolland is Spooderman will be the first question that we get to on the John Campea Show tomorrow. So make sure you come on back and join us for that. Also, don't forget that tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we are going to be doing our Hawkeye post-game open spoiler discussion here on the channel. We will talk all about the Hawkeye episode that's dropping tonight. I mean, if you're in Los Angeles like me, that is tonight at midnight. We'll be talking about that. Please do plan on coming and joining us for that tomorrow. All right, guys, that'll do it for me. Special thank you to all you guys who sent in these questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. Number two, you supported our channel as you did, and all of us involved with the John Campea Show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. All right, that does it for me, guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.